to A1R Psychic Radio, Earth's #1 psychic radio network, and watching Moonstruck TV, enlightening television. Welcome.
Time for Insights by Janita with Janita Francis. Live from InsightsByJanita.com.
Connect direct. In North America, dial 888-454-2751. In London, 20-3519-2158. In Sydney, dial 02-8488-3147. Or online, contact us through our Facebook page, facebook.com/psychic radio.
Or one of our websites,
askoneradio.com or moonstruck.tv.
This is Insights by Janita
on A1R, the Ask One Radio Network.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Insights by Janita Francis. I am, of course, Janita Francis, and thank you very much for tuning in for another exciting week as I start the lineup for Wednesday night right here on A1R Psychic Radio. It has been an absolutely chaotic week on so many different levels. Australia is essentially a giant island, and we have been through the ringer with bushfires, flooding, and now coronavirus as well. And it is affecting, I think the last numbers I saw were 280,000 people heading towards our unemployment benefits, which is what you call Centrelink here. So it is, I mean, obviously we don't have the population that some other countries do around the world, but that is a huge, it's just huge here for us. It's just unprecedented, and like it is right around the globe. So it's really, I don't know if it's comforting or whether it's not so comforting that we're all in this on the planet together. You know, it's no one is exempt from it, unfortunately. So a very interesting times ahead. So what I wanted to talk about today is empathy or empathic people versus clear empathy. And I was talking to somebody recently about this because with the current events and coronavirus and everything that is going on, I mean, this coronavirus is the thing that's most front of mind, but there's so many other topics and discussions and other things that are going on as well that just simply don't make a lot of sense at the moment. So, and I was talking about this to a couple of ladies, and one of them said, I'm empathic and I'm struggling. I get caught up. I feel physically sick. Everything's on top of me. I'm so overwhelmed right now with the world. And she said, you know, I feel terrible that I'm empathic, you know. And I said, well, empathy is actually a curse. It's not a gift. And of course, she looked at me very strangely. And the reason why, and I have had some interesting discussions with people over my lifetime regarding the difference between empathy and clear empathy. And it sounds like it's the same, but it's to be empathic can sometimes be very overwhelming. It heightens our anxiety. Going to do simple things like to the shops, especially at times like right now, going out into crowds, going to a new work site, going to a new place, driving through a new suburb or a new area or location, moving to a whole new location, you know, and picking up on all of those other environmental factors and all those other emotions that are not even yours, and then hanging on to them. And it sounds like, you know, oh, I'm empathic. It sounds like a really sweet thing to have. But there's a huge difference, and I think that a lot of people are getting quite confused about what empathy is, what clear empathy is, and what is compassion. And a lot of people can have compassion without having to be on that journey with that person, and that idealistically is the perfect scenario. And that's where clear empathy comes in, because you're able to understand that person, you're able to understand the emotions of the environment, the frequency shifts, the vibrational shifts that everybody is going through, especially times like now, and you're able to identify what is actually legitimately yours and what is not. And clear empathy is a gift, unlike empathy. Empathy is a bloody curse, let me tell you. It is a curse. And I know that a lot of people love saying that I'm empathic, I have a lot of empathy. But they're also the same sorts of people that get really upset and tired and fatigued and frustrated with other situations. They're also coined the rescuers of the world, because a lot of people that term themselves as being empathic want to rescue those others that are in that lower vibrationary point in their lives. And it makes it, the empathic person, the rescuer, has to be able to identify that some people are just on that cycle and they don't have to be, nor do they want to be rescued. That is their journey. Let them go. You can give them some points if they ask, but you can't force them. You can't force your beliefs upon them. And at the end of the day, you certainly don't want to be taking home all of that, the trauma and the emotion and the overload. I know that when I go to fairs, I've retired a lot from fairs lately, but when I go to fairs, if I didn't have a clear empathy approach to my work, I would be bringing home all sorts of lower vibrationary situations, a lot of grief. A lot of people, you very rarely go to a reader when everything is happening perfectly in your life. You don't go for a reading because everything is crystal clear and everything is okay and you're feeling strong and empowered and you're pumped about life and there's nothing that you don't already know that's going to come in. You don't do that, because you're so at ease with everything that's going on. You don't need outside influence or an outside support stream. But you do go to a reader when you're feeling very low, or when your relationship is not going in the direction that you wanted it to go, or that you would like it to go. Or you go to a reader when you've lost someone that you love, whether they've just ghosted you or whether they've actually technically gone over and passed over. So a lot of people come when they're in that vulnerable, traumatic or stressed state. So if I didn't have a clear empathy approach to my work, I would take all of that energy on, and it would make me very sick. It would make me very fatigued. It would also render me completely useless in my job as a medium, because you can't remain a professional distance. You can't help someone really if you're both so consumed by that emotion at any given time. So it's really, I've been teaching people the difference between empathy, which is a curse. It is. Surely you want to go to the shops without feeling completely overwhelmed and dead and that you need a nanny nap by the time you get home. And switching that over to clear empathy, which is saying, wow, I can sense that person is really having a rough time at the moment, or that person's is struggling with her pregnancy, or that man is struggling with his career, or whatever it is that gift that you have allows you to tune into. But you don't have to take on that discomfort. And it doesn't mean that you're desensitized. It doesn't mean that you don't care or that you lack compassion. It's actually so much clearer. How many times have we been in that state of trauma ourselves, and we've been crying or we've been angry, consumed by any emotion other than love at any given time, and we just think this is the end of the world as we know it, and this is just, I can't deal with any more, and it's system overload. And you can't think straight when you're in that mode. You can't think straight when you're under that much emotional pressure. But fast forward to a few days, a few weeks, a few months, however long it takes for you to process what's going on, and you can look back at that time and think, wow, I'm okay. I got through it. Everything in my life is perfect, whole and complete. If only I could have seen that when I was in the thick of it. And that is why clear empathy is such a gift, because you can identify that is someone else's emotion. You don't have to take it on. You don't have to be there every step of the way with feeling what's going on for them. But you can certainly keep a little bit of distance so that you can provide them with that clarity of thought that they're perhaps struggling with. So when my friends come to me, and I've got some absolutely amazing, strong women friends, but we all go through those moments where you think, oh my God, why me? And when we talk to each other about these sorts of situations, because we empathize, but we apply clear empathy, so we can understand this has happened to us. I get where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. And, you know, as a group, we might have a bit of a cry and release, because generally we all go through things at the same time or very close to one another. And then we get through it by supporting one another. There's always someone that's in a stronger point at that given time that will help lift you. And that's what life is all about. And clear empathy gives you a natural ability to be able to lift that person and not sit down on the side of the road and cry with them, or not make them feel better and then you feel like shit for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. And, you know, or you mull over. And I know that in my younger days, look at me, old duck. In my younger days, I would get really, really upset about any style of animal cruelty. I just cannot get my head around. I don't understand how anybody could hurt anything that is so vulnerable, and all animals do is love. They don't, you know, they're so family orientated. They just, you know, they're just completely aside from humans, okay? They're just in a whole other way of doing things. And I just can't understand, or could not understand, how cruelty could come about. And I would actually allow that space, because I am able to feel that emotion that they're going through. You know, whatever was happening to them, I would be able to put myself in that spot, and I could actually physically feel what was going on. And I had to learn how to turn that off, because a lot of people think that by raising awareness to cruelty, by posting a lot of cruelty pictures and videos and things like that, I'm going to raise awareness, not realizing that people like me that, you know, will struggle with that and have nightmares for weeks on end over what they've just accidentally seen 2.5 seconds of. So I needed to come up with a different way of being able to say, okay, it's not mine, I don't watch it. If I keep my circle very, very tight on Facebook, but there was a couple of years ago, there were some videos floating around, and I said to a friend of mine, look, I totally understand where you're coming from with trying to raise awareness, but I cannot have these sorts of things on my page, and I have an obligation to other people that feel how I feel as well, to protect them in that process. She decided that she was going to do it anyway, so we parted ways. And there's no hard feelings around that, because my boundaries have to be very strong to be able to protect myself. I've since learned I still don't watch anything like that. If I see anything that comes up, graphic content, I just get rid of it. I hide it. I don't need to see it. I'm not curious. I'm perfectly okay with not going any further with that video or that picture. But it, you know, But the clear empathy comes in by being able to recognize that that's someone else's emotion, it's not mine. And I know that cruelty in particular of humans or animals really, you know, gets me going. It really gets me in a state. So I have a boundary around being not watching that and not taking that on. And I can support awareness in other ways. I don't need to support it by sharing videos. So a little bit of insight on how the difference between empathic and clear empathy works. So clear empathy is really about being able to recognize that it's somebody else's, and that's okay for them to feel that, but I don't need to buy into it. I don't need to get too involved in it. So that's probably the easiest way to just to de-escalate a lot of situations as well. So especially with coronavirus at the moment, and everybody's in, you know, well, most people are in a state of fear. I read something very funny yesterday, and it was about the conspiracy theorists is really calm, and they're like, yeah, you know what, we knew this, we warned you, we told you this was coming. And then everybody else in the world that, you know, thought that the conspiracy theorists were all nuts, then they're in a bit of a panic, and they're having panic buying moments and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of fear is being driven by that. And the trouble with fear is it's a catchy disease. Quite often people, you know, it's designed to be able to infect people really, really quickly, you know, the fear. So, and it does that. And the more we buy into the fear around it, the more we just believe it on face value and don't actually do some research ourselves, the more in a panic we will get. And the more in a panic we get, the lower our vibration becomes. And when our vibration is very low, we're susceptible to actually catching diseases and dis-ease in our bodies. So disease is a dis-ease of our bodies. And so that's what happens. And the more the media amps up the fear around coronavirus, the more we allow ourselves to buy into the fear around coronavirus, the lower our immunity is going to become, and we actually heighten the risk. An example of this, if you need physical terms, is everyone's shitting their pants, so they're running down to the supermarket. Now, in Australia, we've been told that social distancing is the way to go. I can assure you that as soon as you get out of your private car at the shopping centre, social distancing is a completely foreign language. It's every man for himself, and you will have 5 or 6 people standing on top of you at any given point. So if we're going to spread the germ, it's going to be through fear buying, through panic buying, by not listening to, the social distancing idea. And it actually does work, because I socially distance myself from people that are draining of my energy. I find that some of the people that I've been speaking to over the years, they would distance themselves from psychic vampires or psyche vampires, or people that have sucked their aura, sucked their energy out of them. So in a sense, the spiritual world, we have already been doing a little bit of social distancing for quite some time. I don't think any of us have ever trialled it with a virus as such, but the principle of application is actually still there. So so we need to be mindful. It's the fear of missing out, that FOMO, that we're going to miss out on toilet paper, we're going to miss out on pasta, we're going to miss out on this. And that is why people forget all about social distancing. They forget all about the fact that we have to do these sorts of things very short term, and it is very short term, to be able to almost paralyze a long-term issue. And it's really about understanding. Like, we had a very hot day here in Sydney a couple of weeks back, and last Friday, and it was like 37, 39 degrees or something ridiculous. So everybody that was home from work because of the shutdown and the lockdowns and the industry changes and coronavirus decided it would be a fabulous idea to go to one of our famous beaches, Bondi. So most people around the world know Bondi. It's not the world's biggest beach, okay? So when 50,000 people get there in one damn go, we're going to spread germs. So social distancing ran out the window that day. Nobody listened to that. Nobody paid attention to the fact that you've now potentially exposed yourself and your family and your loved ones to everybody else's germs. And I know that sounds selfish, but if everyone had that same mindset, then everybody would actually be mindful of the fact that if they protect their own family, they would automatically be protecting everybody else's. So it's really I study humans. I absolutely love them. So from a human research point of view, I suppose it's been very interesting seeing how people are practicing social distancing, how they're applying things in some areas, but then it just goes out the window when that fear takes over. It really does. And everybody just chills out, calms their farms, as we say here, and just tries to have a smarter approach to what's going on, apply some intelligent emotion around, yeah, I've got to go to the shops. Organise yourself a shopping list so you don't panic when you get in there. It can be quite overwhelming. Even now, there's been a lot of fights at supermarkets, which just blows my mind. I mean, we've never ran out of food before. There's obviously plenty for everybody if we all just do our normal shop. So, and they've said 1,000 times, there's systems in places for us to just relax and know that, there's plenty of for everybody. Just do our normal shop. There doesn't need to be anything extravagant about it. But as soon as you get to that lineup at Centrelink, our unemployment benefits support group here, social distancing goes out the window. There was 88,000 people that went to Centrelink buildings across Australia on day one of the shutdown. So that's just a phenomenal amount of people that are not practicing social distancing, that are not practicing general hygiene. They're literally standing in, the only benefit was they're standing in the hot sun in most states. And coronavirus, we know, doesn't like those hot, sticky moments. So but we've essentially got all those people lining up, and it's the fear of not being able to pay their bills, it's the fear of not being able to feed their families or pay their mortgages and pay their rent. And I'm not saying that is not a real fear, but when we're consumed by fear, we cannot think straight. And when we cannot think straight, we're actually adding to the problem, not taking away from it. And it's just, it's really hard to get that balance between understanding what is safe and hygienic and the right way of doing things, and being able to understand that we also, we're caught up in that missing out. We might miss out. There might not be enough. I know that the poverty mindset is something that a lot of people struggle with. They're especially in Australia, where, like in my generation, most of our parents were tradies. You don't work, you don't get paid. And, so a lot of people lived paycheck to paycheck, a lot of our parents live paycheck to paycheck, and you can't do that anymore because everything's so damn expensive. You can't have one parent working, the other one staying at home and raising kids, so you've got all those extra expenses. So it's certainly a different world now than what it ever was before. But just this whole poverty mindset and fear of missing out is really making people act in very crazy ways. And my biggest concern, and I've actually done a download this morning from Spirit around it, which will be up on my YouTube shortly, and what was going on is all the fear, exactly what I explained before, is the fear is lowering the immunity, and, that absolute terror. And the virus itself is real, it absolutely is real. It's not make-believe. It's not something we're seeing on TV. It's not actors or anything like that. But the trouble is when we're in fear and we're making silly decisions and we're not practicing some really very simple, very, there's nothing extravagant about what we're being asked to do, we run the risk of spreading that further and having more casualties and more diagnosis, and the longevity of the virus will hang around for longer. So, my chat this morning was all about, being able to lower that fear so we can heighten our immune system. And if you get, have to go on 2 weeks leave, or you get shut down for a few weeks, see how that redirection is. I did some astroscope readings based on channeled information for different sun signs this morning. And the common theme that was coming up was, this is an opportunity for you to redirect those things that you've been thinking about. This is an opportunity for you to try. Everybody's in the same boat. If you've always worked retail and you bloody hate it and you'd love to try doing something else, going, instead of working in a clothes shop, you'd love to go and do waitressing, or you've been a waitress and you'd love to go and do airline hostessing, anything at all. This is the time for you to have a look around and see what it is that you want to do, see if everything in your life is how you want it to be. And this opportunity to see it as the purge that it is, and it really is one gigantic purge that's going on, and changing the direction of your life, seeing if, I know that for me it's come up a few times, what exactly do I want to do? The virus has affected me in lots of different ways because I have 2 jobs.